Yes, you are now listening to the sound of Sports Reports is Ordered. We are here. I got Mr. Logical.
You're
I am 2-5. And you know what we are? We're smarter than some of these coaches out here. Because if I got the chance to go for two, I'm not
Give me your
Caleb Williams get
clipboard.
the ball again.
Give me your clipboard.
Let the
Just
Heisman.
sign me in.
Just let the
Tag me
Heisman
in,
winner
coach.
get another possession. Why not?
Give me your clipboard.
Why not? You know,
Give me your
win or
laminated
go home.
sheet.
Go hard or go home.
Give me the clipboard. Give me the hand signals. I got it from here. I'm coming at the audience. Jersey on backwards. I'm doing my thing. I'm doing a better
Nice.
thing than some of y'all for sure.
Tonight, we're going to recap some college football and some questionable coaching decisions. We're going to get into the NFL reaction. We're going to tell you what we saw. We're going to talk about how the Cowboys just got their ass kicked. Woo!
I was born
That
in
score
Texas.
was
It
not
felt tough.
reflective of how bad they got whooped.
They got beat 96-0.
But anyway, Mr. Logical, it is that time of show where we find issue within the world of sports. And we got some stuff to get off of our chest. So what you got on your mind on this
All right, I
beautiful
got
evening?
two things real quick.
All right.
I want to shout out me with the microphone out the way. All right, still can hear me. I want to shout out my boy Sanders. You know what I mean? My young troop from back in the day. Now we're both old heads. Got married over the weekend. So not only am I representing the Deion Sanders, because that's my guy. He's the reason I love the Falcons. The reason most of y'all are watching college football right now, this deep in October. And a shout out a good friend of mine who's my former troop, grown man, got the CT Fletcher beard, doing big things down in Texas. So I want to, congratulate him and his new wife. So shout out to Sanders, man. I'm proud of you, man. So keep it up. Listen, one woman loving you and you loving that woman back is a positive thing. Don't let people tell you otherwise. Don't listen to Future and those other people telling you otherwise. Don't listen to the nonsense. Don't listen to the BS. Look with your eyes, love with your heart, believe what you see. Leads me right in to get it off my chest.
Mazel tov.
Minnesota fans and people who are fans of this flawed ideology that the NFL is scripted, just stop it. You're forcing it. You're forcing. This is not keeping up with the Kardashians. This is not Dancing with the Stars. This is NFL football. Cut it out. The only script is we're going to put these teams at this time because we know you people will watch. That's it. Everything else is all predicated on performance. Yes, do the refs have an impact, good, bad, or indifferent? True. Mark Slayer said it best. I held every play. They just didn't call it every time. So it's going to be holding. Pass interference. Rough the passer calls are going to get missed. Things are going to get missed. But please stop chopping up that play where, first of all, Minnesota was in 4th and 7. He had they were at 4th and 7, 37, 4th and 7, got delayed game or false start. Had to get backed up 5 yards. So they already put themselves in a precarious position by being in that moment anyway. It wasn't roughing the passer because the blitzer hit Kirk Cousins' arm as he was letting the ball go. The ball floated over the head of Jordan Addison to the point where him and Snead were both looking for the ball. It wasn't pass interference. Not even was it uncatchable. It wasn't even in the area where they can either one of them can catch it. They both were looking for the ball. Oh, he took his helmet off. Well, the play's over. It's 4th down. It's a turnover and downs. The helmet coming off is a dead ball play. So Minnesota wouldn't have got the ball back. Kansas City still would have gotten at the 15-yard line, and they would have nailed the game out the same way they did. Please stop sharing this chopped up video of this guy, whoever he is, talking about the NFL wants the Chiefs to win. No, that is not the case. The NFL doesn't give a damn who wins because we watch every week. We buy these jerseys every week. We buy the $12 hot dogs and the $15 beers at the game. If you want to take your family of four to a game in Jerry World, it is $800 minimum before concessions. This is parking and putting your butts in the seat. You at $800. They are not in the business of scripting out and making sure that Patrick Mahomes makes a Super Bowl. That game is in February. It is October. Just face the facts. You're watching a game where sometimes people get breaks, sometimes they don't. Stop sharing these chopped up, uneducated, unsubstantiated videos talking about, oh, that would have been a penalty. Yeah, it would have been a dead ball penalty, and Kansas City still would have gotten the ball, and the results of the game would have been the same. Don't get the false start. Don't get the holding call. Don't get a pass interference. Don't put yourself in a position to where now you're hoping the refs bail you out at the end of the game. Cut it out. It makes me want to feel as if none of the history books I've ever read are real. None of the documentaries I've seen are truthful because people will literally share this information in 4K and try to tell me I'm seeing something different simply because they feel one way. Deal with the loss like a man. Don't get on the internet talking about, oh, the ref stole it. I told my 7-year-old son when he started playing football, if you allow the refs to be the reason why you lose the game, it's because you didn't make enough plays prior to them intervening. And you think the San Francisco 49ers worried about the refs? They won by 32 points. You think New England's worried about the refs? No, they lost by 34 points because the other team whooped their ass. You think that 70-20 game didn't have some holding calls that didn't get called? It didn't matter. Miami had 70 points. When they had the alley, they scored the touchdown. They didn't have unnecessary blocks in the back. So it's either scripted out of 32 teams for one team succeed, but yet another team scores 70 points. Or how about the fact that one team stayed in England for 2 weeks? That's an unfair advantage. So these guys don't get to see their families for 2 weeks and supposed to help them win a football game. That only comes out after they beat Buffalo. So cut it out. You are not watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. You're not watching Love and Hip Hop or whatever these Love and Real Housewives shows. You're watching football. And every once in a while, the ball will bounce off a helmet and get intercepted. Every once in a while, a dude will grab a face mask, and one of the 6 dudes that are around 40, 45 years old, who's not as athletic as the guys running around, he might miss it. But you know what you can do? You can score 40 points and make sure they don't win. You can stop them cleanly on third down. Don't leave it up to the refs. Because if you leave it up to the refs at the end of the game, that means for the 59 minutes the game was going on, you didn't do your job. Stop crying. Players, stop crying. Stay your crying asses off of Twitter. If you get your ass kicked, Michael Parsons, just stay off of Twitter. It's fine. AB, no one needs you in Baltimore. Stay off of Twitter. All you crying ass fans, stay off the internet. Deal with the losses as they come. It'll turn around. The Rams were a laughing stock for years. Jared Goff got with Sean McVay. They went to the Super Bowl. It will turn around. Stop crying and bitching and complaining every single day when I'm trying to just watch the sports, have a good sports conversation, and you worried about some conspiracy theory that you can't corroborate. Shut up. My bad.
But the NBA, on the other hand,
Game 7 is so hard because you got to play against the refs.
Hey, but no, for real, that's real talk though. Because I mean, who would have ever thought we'd be seeing the Detroit Lions like this right now? 4-1, first place. I mean, we talked about it. Detroit and Minnesota in the NFC North, and then now we got the Bears and the Vikings playing this week to see who's going to be in last place.
Shout out to Justin Fields, man. Like, I'd take either one of them in Atlanta, but that's neither here nor there.
But no, I get it though. Like these, I don't know. Anyway,
I said, I know fans short for fanatic, but listen, man, can it be short for factual? Can we take them other letters?
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. Like, some of my commander buddies may have not said that Thursday night game was scripted because Dick Buckus died. We got to. I don't know how they would have came up with that script so quickly, but you know what I mean. Like,
I feel you. Look, it's obnoxious. I love that the NFL did the commercials, kind of leading into it, but it's like, come on, man, this is
yeah,
football.
but that's all right because we're gonna see your squad this weekend. But anyway, get it off my chest. So, look, man, we talked about the college coaches and their decision making. There's one in particular that I'm going to focus on. We'll talk about the rest later, but it's a symptom of a bigger problem. So, college football overtime. I've always hated it. Always. So like, yes, we don't need ties. We need to find a way to pick a winner. But under the previous edition of overtime, it was just straight up, at the 25 over and over again. Third overtime, you got to go for 2 after you get a touchdown. And then, you have 7 overtime games, which just sound ridiculous. Then we changed the rules up. Now we got this thing where after the second overtime, you go for 2. And then after the second overtime, everything is 2-point conversions only. So Jedd Fisch, who I like, the head coach at Arizona, turned them from a laughingstock to a respectable team. They're playing USC. Me and Mr. Logical got into a little argument that we'll rehash later because
Absolutely.
I felt that Arizona should have went for 2 when the game was tied at 28. They should have went up for the 29-28 lead. Obviously there was more time in the game. USC got the ball some more. Whatever was going to happen was going to happen. But then they got to overtime. And they get to the second overtime. They get the ball first because USC scored first in the first overtime. Arizona scores. They come back out for their second possession, get a touchdown. And Jedd Fisch sends the kicking team on the field. And I think one of the refs, had to tell him, no, buddy, you got to go for 2 here. So he had to call a timeout in overtime. During a dead ball period, he had to call a timeout because he had the wrong team on the field. First of all, I did not watch these teams play for 60 minutes. And then this happens, and then we got to go to 3 overtimes and go for 2-point conversions at that point. Now, granted, the game didn't come to that because USC put them out there in misery. But I don't like this every possession. Like, I don't know if you remember this. This was 2 seasons ago, maybe the COVID year. Penn State, Illinois, played in Happy Valley. They went to 9 overtimes. And the final score was like 20-18.
For 2-point conversions?
Off of 2-point conversions. Like, I went to a game last year, UTSA Houston, same thing, So like, look, these teams played hard for 60 minutes. Let them decide it on the field. I'm not saying that I necessarily 100% agree with the whole NFL style of overtime, but it's gotten better. I like the new improvements. College football, these teams played 60 minutes. They left it all on the line. We got an extra period. Let them earn that victory, because even if I win off of a 2-point conversion, it could have been a fluke that mine worked and yours didn't. What if you jumped off sides and now my 2-point conversion is at the 1 or at the half-yard line?
Or you get a tip because you throw a slant and the linebacker just happens to be there, tips it.
Yeah, just play another quarter, pretty much, adopt something close to the NFL rules. Even if you got to go sudden death, like that works better than what I saw in some of these.
I like sudden death. I wish the NFL would have stuck to that. Because stick to it. You had 60 minutes. You had 60 minutes to figure it out.
The NFL has found a way, sports in general, I guess, have found a way to minimize defense. Like if I know that I can hold you to a field goal.
Sports has found a way to appease whining. I hate to cut off your, get off my chest.
Oh, it's all good.
They have found a way to appease whining and complaining instead of saying, man up. These are your parameters. Fairness is not is not expectation.
Buffalo Josh
That's the
Allen
reason we
didn't
have
get
it
the
now.
ball. Like, yeah, play some
Yo,
defense.
I was playing Madden. Before the season started, and I'm in overtime. I get the touchdown. I'm thinking the game is over. Madden had adopted the rules from the end of the Super Bowl through just now, like when the new game came out. We were in the postseason rules, so this dude got the ball back. The overtime period ended, and they started another one. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm supposed to be done. I was in overtime on a video game based off the NFL rules. The game's supposed to be over. Like I worked it down to like 12 seconds in overtime before I threw that little slant right to Drake London. And it's like, nope, he got the ball back. I'm kicking it off. I'm just like, what is this? But because Buffalo couldn't lock down a team for 13 seconds, they changed everything. That's what it's all about, man. It's like sometimes you need to be looked in your face and told, you don't get to participate in this party. Like we're going from 4 to 12 teams in the playoff. That's going to be chaos. We'll see how that goes next year. Sometimes you just stand in a room with people or sit around this table, and somebody got to tell the person either at the head of the table or someone at the head of the table got to tell the other 11 people at the table, this is the way it's going to be, man.
Mm-hmm.
I love your complaints. Cool. Attach them to carrier pigeons and send them to my crib, but I don't care. This is the way it's going to be. And I think for some reason, we keep trying to appease to the point where it's going to be a field goal kicking contest. Because someone's not going to like the 2-point contest. It's going to be like, oh, you got to kick a 50-yard field goal in your third overtime.
It's gonna be like a soccer shootout, you know.
Straight up, it's gonna be 7-on-7, no rushing, go routes. Because someone's gonna think that's a good idea. They're gonna have some kind of leverage in NCAA, and that's gonna be the new thing.
And I know the college fans are going to kill me because, you know, they don't want their game to look like the NFL. But there's got to be a better way.
It's got to be.
Got to be a better way. So we are now just about at or over the halfway point for some teams in the college football season. So, you know, what are our takeaways? What have we learned? Mr. Logical seems to have learned stay away from picking college games.
Oh my goodness, man. Listen, from now on, I'm just picking a home team favorite. That's it. I'm not even gonna front. If
Hey,
you're the
well, you
home
know, this
team
weekend,
and you're the favorite, I'm picking you.
well, this
If
weekend
you
we got a
if you
big
don't team,
one.
you're not the favorite. I'm not even gonna acknowledge. I'm not gonna render an opinion on your game other than whatever facts I have. So when I get USC, UCLA, wherever the game is, I'm not sure. If they say it's at UCLA and USC's a favorite, I'm not even gonna touch that game. I'm not gonna talk about it
I was going to
at
ask
all.
you, you know, because you know USC goes to Notre Dame this week. You know, so you know, like interesting.
I'm gonna talk about Reggie Bush,
You know,
Leinart, the Bush push. I'm gonna talk about Brady Quinn,
yeah, I'm gonna look up the
Manti
line right
Te'o.
now.
I'm gonna talk about all the historical players that have been
Notre
involved in
Dame.
this game, and I'm not gonna render. I'm not.
So to your point,
I'm so bad at it. I thought I was good.
To your
until I started
point,
recording it.
To your point, Notre Dame is favored by 2.5.
Don't care. I'm still not doing it. I'm not doing it. I get USC's defense is they've given up 82 points in the last couple of weeks, so a couple of teams that they beat. I get it. I understand all the facts, but as USC Notre Dame is a big game. I haven't gotten one big game correct yet.
Well, but look, you got another chance because this weekend Washington is a 3-point favorite at home against Oregon.
This is why 1-800-GAMBLER is a new number you can call because you tell yourself you have a chance. That wasn't a thing. When I first started going to casinos back in like 06, 07, 1-800-GAMBLER was not a number you could call because you thought, man, I need this one thing to turn around. It's because people like me kept making wrong decisions. Some people make them on the gambling, on the tables. I'm making them here in our podcast that we created for ourselves. I have been abysmal at these picks. And it's like I've watched these games I picked Notre Dame to beat Ohio State. Didn't work out. It's just like painfully just sometimes it's like the game is just so bad. I'm just like, why did I even think that this?
Well,
I picked Kentucky to beat Georgia
you did.
in
You
the
picked Ole Miss
same
to beat
weekend.
Bama.
In the same, I picked Ole Miss to beat Bama 2 weeks ago. Hold on, I picked Texas to beat Oklahoma because I said they weren't going to be able to handle
Well, I
the.
picked that one too. You know,
Hold on, I did some more. I had some more. Okay, uh, I picked Kentucky over Georgia. I picked Texas over Oklahoma. I picked Washington State over UCLA, and I picked Notre Dame over Louisville. I'm done, man. I'm done. I can't pick it. I'm not picking anymore. I love the fact that it's shaping out this way because um it seems as if the last 3 or 4 years the college football landscape has been kind of stagnant as far as the viewer, the ebbs and flow of the feelings of the viewer. The last 2 years, we knew October 1st, Georgia's the best team in the country. The Joe Burrow year, we knew October, oh, those guys are different. We might have thought, oh, Bama would get them. You could think that every year because Bama was the team prior to Georgia and prior to LSU.
and
They
they
were the
almost
state
got him 46-41. They almost got him.
almost got them. Then you had before then it was like you had the Clemson run. Clemson to get this team because there was no one that was going to beat Clemson in the ACC. Everyone, I think Georgia Tech played them tight one year with Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence came out. They put the backup in, I believe, went a couple of games. But for the most part, from the Deshaun Watson years to Trevor Lawrence, Clemson was a team that was going to battle the next SEC team. And I think it kind of got a little stale. This year, Colorado gets an extra possession. They get the touchdown earlier in the previous possession on USC before USC went down and missed the field goal. They get that touchdown then, and then USC misses a field goal, and they come back to that next. Like we can have a whole different story. Even with Colorado State against Colorado, Alabama losing to Texas, but still not looking like they're out of it because they got right back on track. They didn't look great against USF. They lost to Texas, then they got right back on track. Yes, they're not beating teams 41-14 like we've known them to beat, teams years previous. LSU, Jaden Daniels playing like a Heisman candidate, but they just got the 2 losses. Florida State.
But that's what one of the things I was gonna bring up. Bama, it's all in front of them. They got Tennessee and LSU both coming to Bryant Denny, and they win both of those games. They went out, they get to Atlanta, and maybe they play Georgia, and all bets are off. And what looked like a failed season
could turn around and they're in the national championship game.
And how fitting would it be? How fitting would it be for Bama to end Georgia's run?
It will be tough, but I think when you would think about like quarterback with a good defense, he knows there's good defense, he could take that shot.
Mm-hmm.
And as now the weather's starting to maybe start changing. Down south is still the same. You got some dome games and things like that. But we're just, we're mid-October time frame. Weather's not too bad. You can get a couple more wins with this pretty good weather, and get a couple of more confidence games. Maybe you don't get a windy game, you don't get a cold game. You're 8-0. You're feeling it. The defense believes in you. You believe in yourself. You saw what Stetson Bennett did. It wasn't as if you're replacing a legend. Like if you're replacing Joe Burrow's season, 60 touchdowns, undefeated season, just beating the brakes off of people, that's tough. Stetson Bennett just was a really, really good quarterback with a good defense. Mm-hmm. You can look in the mirror and say, I'm just as good as Stetson. I can do what he did with this same defense. And I think that's the confidence. And the coaching staff, they're used to coaching on these parameters, they didn't have a dynamic quarterback like CJ Stroud or Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence or like Deshaun Watson, one of these guys. It's kind of just Caleb Williams.
He's been looking good. He's one of the best
Michael Penix Jr. Yeah, but he's not one of these guys that's like people are coming to the games to see him.
Right.
He's not a quick viewers, something like that. So it's like we're winning with the essentially we'll call him a B plus quarterback. I'm not trying to be disparaging, but he hasn't really
Gotcha.
shown a lot to be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a top flight quarterback. But he's like, I'm not bad. But he's not as dynamic as one of these, some of these top Heisman candidates, like a Jalen Daniels. Imagine like Jalen Daniels behind that Georgia line with that Georgia defense. It'd be crazy.
So can I give myself a pat on the back real quick?
Want a drum roll?
No, that's fine. I'm gonna take it back to the old school. Y'all WWF fans know Barry Horowitz. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. So check it out. You know what I mean? In August, before the season started, 2-5 Daily. I came to you. I said, look it up on YouTube. The video is called "Who Will Be This Year's TCU."
We're gonna reshare it after the show.
And I went down 2 teams. I said Wisconsin, but I didn't know about Wisconsin because they're changing their whole offensive identity. And the other team was Louisville, with Brian Brom coming home, or Jeff Brom coming home, head coach, quarterback extraordinaire, went to Purdue, took Purdue to the Big Ten title game. All that.
Back up in Atlanta for a while.
Yeah. And now he's at Louisville, back at his alma mater. And I looked at the schedule, because that's what you have to do when you make these kind of decisions and picks. I looked at the schedule. In the ACC this year, they got no Florida State, no Clemson, no North Carolina. So now we're in a doomsday scenario potentially. I don't think this is actually going to happen, but it could. Florida State, North Carolina, and Louisville are the only undefeated ACC teams right now. They could finish the season undefeated, all 3 of them. Or Florida State could finish undefeated and the other 2 finish with 1 loss. And they don't play each other. So you got to figure out who's going to play who in the ACC title game. Because I was looking at the schedule. Louisville goes to Pitt this week. Next week, they play Duke, who may not have Riley Leonard. They got Virginia Tech and Virginia at home. And then they close the ACC schedule at Miami before they play their rivalry game with Kentucky. So the Kentucky game obviously doesn't matter in the sense of the ACC championship game. But Louisville has a chance to win out and go undefeated and meet Florida State or North Carolina in the ACC title game. So it hasn't happened yet, but I made it this far. So I'm going to just get that off, right now.
All right.
But yeah.
I think 6 games is enough for you to go ahead and toot your horn. So I applaud you for that. Like I said, I told myself I'm no good at this. I'll get better.
But yeah, so of course, we had some games this weekend. The Red River was a great game, as it generally is. Great game. And this is why, folks, out there in X World, I guess it used to be X World out there, you can't say anything because people are going to come back at you and say, didn't you say that this team was going to do this? And then last year, Oklahoma went 6-7, and everybody said, get Venables out of there. Like, he's a coordinator. He's not a head
I admire the patience because I probably would have gone after one of these offensive head coaches.
It was just 1 year. Now, this is the question.
Sometimes you still can know. You still can know after a year. Well, it's not like just 1 year. It's like, that's a long time.
This is the question. Could Oklahoma make the playoff before Lincoln Riley and USC?
If USC keeps playing defense with 9 dudes on the field or whatever they're doing to give up these points, because there's no way you're out there with 11 talented players from Texas, Arizona, Colorado, the transfer portal, and everywhere else Lincoln Riley's getting players. You out here just giving up 40 burgers every single week. I'm going to assume you just took 2 dudes off the field to make it tougher on Caleb and help him bolster his numbers for the Heisman because their defense is so bad.
Well, what's crazy
it is so bad. They just give up points to everybody.
He brought his coordinator from Oklahoma with him. You know what I mean? So, like,
he should have left him in Norman.
Yeah, and then he should have got rid of him last year.
They should have got to the airport when Lincoln Riley's family was all dressed in USC colors and be like, "Oh, my bad, dog. You staying here."
No disrespect.
I'm gonna get a dude from the Los Angeles Rams to come in to be a defensive coordinator because you couldn't stop a faucet.
No disrespect to the Green Wave, but once they gave up 46 to Tulane, he should have been out of there. But looking at the schedule, because that's what I do, look at the schedule. They go to South Bend this week. They got Utah coming in next week.
Utah's no offense, though.
It's
not an offensive team.
But Utah pushes them around. Like they got their number.
With Cam Rising, like
we'll see.
Sometimes, like the quarterback dynamic in college football is a lot like the quarterback, especially when you have one that is like last year, the Red River Shootout. What was it, 49-0 Texas beat Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Dillon Gabriel didn't play because he caught a concussion against TCU on a slide. Mm-hmm. He slid in this Texas game too and got hit. At this point, you might be better off just running into the defender because the ground, the earth is probably tougher than the dude because Gabriel's a big dude, big Hawaiian quarterback. He's a big body, 6'2", 6'3", 225, 230. You're probably better off running into the safety who might be 6'1", 215 versus letting the safety drive you into the ground on these slides. Like, yeah, you got to protect your shoulder. Use your right when you're left-handed. Just right foot, right shoulder, because he caught another one. Is like the reason you weren't in the game last year because he slid late and got hit by. There was out for a few weeks because of concussion. But just that dynamic, just that ability, even the touchdown that he threw, I thought he was sacked. But he's left-handed. He didn't have to move. He didn't have to move his eyes. And for some reason, the ball came out, and Scott Anderson was in the back corner.
How about the run on that last drive?
The run. I like the pass he threw to Stoops, where he got open. I just thought. Like, I get, because we're going to talk about the whole going forward and moving the ball up and down the field. They didn't move the ball at all in the second half. Texas needed to get more points on their drive. They needed to convert and keep the ball out of Oklahoma's hands because when you're down and you need a touchdown, you play with your hair on fire because collectively everybody's thinking this is the end of the game. We got to get in the end zone. So position coaches, offensive coordinator, head coach, players being subbed in and out, quarterback, everybody knows, like, listen, we got to score a touchdown. I think that stress acts as a relief, whereas defensively, you're thinking the whole time, we can't give up a touchdown because it looked as if Texas was playing like, if we give up a touchdown, we're done. And Oklahoma was like, listen, all we need to do is get a touchdown. And they were making the plays because that whole second half, the Texas defense stood their ground. They played great, but that's when they were mixing in the run and the pass and screens here and slants here. But when the rubber met the road, the one team that had the urgency being down, they were like, oh, we got to get a touchdown. Oh, I think they were like, they could have tied the game up with a field goal. But once they got that pass to Stoops, it was like, oh, we're going for a touchdown. And that's why Texas sent the house and old boy was wide open because they didn't get the communication and the safety dropped down in the box. And the corner was basically in between the two wide receivers on the end zone. I don't know how Gabriel saw it, but I thought he was sacked. So when that ball came out, it's just a very tough position to be in.
Well,
I think it was a great game. I think Texas being the loser of that game, because one of the percentages they were talking about was like, if you win the game, you're 73% likely to make the playoffs. And if you lose it, you're like 26 or something like that.
Well, the good news is they may meet each other again in the Big 12 championship game. Coming into the season, I had Kansas State against Texas, so that wasn't one of my better moments because Kansas State went and got it put on them Friday night in Stillwater. But
did it better than me.
But Kansas may be the last chance. The Jayhawks may be the last chance to beat Oklahoma. If not, Oklahoma may win out, get to the Big 12 championship game, and Texas might be waiting for them in a rematch. So that's where it gets crazy, because do they get the SEC benefit where if Texas goes to the Big 12 championship game, beats Oklahoma, is there a chance
And they get
of them
both
get
in?
Yeah, like that's where we're gonna, because it's
Well,
Texas and
that's the
Oklahoma, right?
thing. That works. That's true. They both travel. They'll both fill a stadium. They'll fill Arizona. If they play a game in Arizona, they'll fill that stadium. If there's a game in Jerry World, they'll fill it. If they have the game in New Orleans, I think they can still fill it. Even if they play in the Georgia Dome, the Sugar
Yeah,
Bowl
'cause,
as
like,
their BCS game,
well, think
as
about
their
it. Let's
playoff game, I think they can fill it. I think they
let's
can fill
flesh
any
this out real
stadium
quick.
from Arizona to Georgia.
So let's flesh this out real quick. So, just real quick around the country or whatever, so you got Texas and Oklahoma probably playing in the Big 12 title game. In the ACC, I think most people more than likely think that Florida State's just going to go undefeated. So, if so, Florida State takes up a playoff spot. Now you got the SEC.
Okay, Florida State. So you haven't picked the Big 12 yet. So you want to write down Oklahoma, Texas for this scenario? I want to write it down.
Yeah, just for the scenario.
Okay.
Just for the
I'm
scenario.
go, okay, yeah. Texas.
Not an official prediction. We're just doing scenario.
One of those two. Okay.
Yeah. But then you got them playing in the title game. You got FSU undefeated. So now the Pac-12 is probably going to cannibalize themselves. And I don't know if anybody's going to make it through undefeated, number one. Number two, I'm not so sure somebody's going to make it through with just one loss.
Who has to make it through to definitively get a spot?
I would say USC just off a name.
USC has to be undefeated? Or
yeah.
They gotta win the Pac-12 championship.
USC
has to win the Pac-12 championship.
I'm sorry. Yeah. USC has to win the Pac-12. Washington or Oregon probably has to be undefeated.
Okay. So you gotta
but the way that
USC has to be they could be a one-loss Pac-12 champion.
Yeah, and still have a chance.
But Washington and Oregon have to be undefeated.
Yeah, because I think it's just
this sounds crazy, but it makes complete sense to me.
It just depends on who they lose to. I'm just going off of name recognition and brand, because like this weekend, Oregon goes to Seattle. So the winner of that game is going to be sitting pretty, because like I said, USC, they go to Notre Dame this week. They play Utah next week. They get their break with Cal. Then they get Washington at home, Oregon on the road. And then they get UCLA.
So USC Pac-12 champion with one loss gets in.
Yeah.
A one-loss Oregon, a one-loss Washington Pac-12 champion.
So Oregon, looking at Oregon.
Out on the outside looking in.
Yeah, it just depends on who they lose to. Because Oregon and Washington, like I said, they play this weekend. Oregon.
So that gives me Ohio State. That's a 14.
Right, so Big Ten. Penn State, Ohio State next week in Columbus. But this is the trick. I'm not trying to do the homer thing. I'm just looking at the schedule. Maryland plays Michigan in between Penn State and Ohio State. So they're the sandwich game.
Does Michigan lose focus, lose to Maryland,
and mess it all up?
And mess it all up for themselves.
Right. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's likely. But they go to Happy Valley to play Penn State. They go to Maryland, and then they close out at home with Ohio State.
What does Louisville need? Because we also know, like,
Louisville has to just be undefeated. With a loss, they're not.
has to be undefeated,
and they have to beat
because
Florida. We know they have to beat Florida State.
Part of the discussion is, I don't know if it's the high end of the discussion or the underneath of the table conversation, but it's, does this team sell 40,000 tickets? NFL stadiums about 70 to 80,000. Jerry World is an anomaly, but you got MetLife up here. There's about 70,000. I think Miami Stadium is close to 60,000, but I think they're so far down in Miami that I think they're good with only selling 60,000.
Well,
I
see, like
believe if they played a bowl
Louisville,
game in Tampa Bay, it's like 70,000. Most NFL stadiums, you're looking at 80,000, and
Louisville
most of
has
those
to
those
go
be-
undefeated.
those games are at NFL stadiums, the championship rounds.
Louisville has to go undefeated, and I believe they have to beat Florida State in the ACC title game. It can't be North Carolina. It has to be
That's what
Florida
I'm
State.
saying. I'm talking like some of these conferences are gonna have to send an undefeated conference champ.
Yeah.
USC can be a one-loss Pac-12 champ.
Hmm.
SEC can send a
They could send a one-loss Bama because then Bama
one-loss
would have beat
Bama,
Georgia. You know what I mean? But this is the question. This is the
and they
question.
could also send a one-loss Georgia
But that's the question. That's the question. So, like, the SEC gets the benefit of the doubt generally.
every year.
You
We're
know, so
used to
the
that. Like
SEC
it's not
champion
even an
is
argument.
probably the SEC champion is going to be in the playoff regardless, probably. But this is the question. Georgia last year, they had Oregon on their schedule, to start the season. The year before, they beat Clemson to start the season. This year, they don't have that out of conference game. They played
But what they
UAB.
do have is can Georgia three-peat?
Exactly. And that's why they're going to get in probably with a loss. You-
Because I gotta listen. I love college. I'm the commissioner of sports. I am the CEO of sports entertainment in America. I love sports. I loved it my whole life. But I gotta sell 40,000 tickets to this game in Arizona. So do I put USC in Louisville playing in Arizona outside of Luke Air Force Base, or do and hope it sells out with USC fans, 60,000 to 20,000 for Louisville fans, or 55,000 to 25,000, or do I guarantee I'm getting 40,000 Bama fans, 40,000 Georgia fans, and 40,000 USC
and
fans?
not to
Because I
mention the
can't
TV.
bank on Washington State getting or Washington getting 40,000 people down here.
Well, not to mention TV too, because, these playoff games are on ESPN.
They're on TV. I got the stadium has to be two definitive colors, just the way
And
the
it
Red River Shootout was from the 50-yard line
and it has to be
north and
ratings.
50-yard line south. I gotta get the Texas versus Oklahoma completely divided stadium. I don't know if I can completely divide the stadium with the Washington Pac-12 champion. Maybe you can get some people from the Pacific Northwest down to Arizona, but if that game has to be in Atlanta, am I
Good
gonna
luck.
get Washington fans
Good luck.
to Atlanta at the number of 30,000, 25, 30,000? It's like
Probably not.
this is we have years of information. Like I believe I went home. I took my kids home to Virginia 2009. Whenever Iowa played in a BCS bowl or like a top bowl game, an Orange Bowl, and we flew from Salt Lake to Atlanta, Virginia, and back. And I remember seeing a lot of Iowa jerseys in the airport in Atlanta. And I thought, oh, that's pretty dope. They must have flown down. But I'm like, I don't know how many Iowa fans were in the stadium.
Right.
I knew a guy when Auburn played Florida State in the national championship was in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. We were
Mhm.
stationed in the Hill. His daughter, like he was from Alabama, he was an Auburn fan. His wife was from Alabama. His daughter, her husband were I was from Alabama. And I don't know if they were living or working in California, but they found out that national championship tickets were like $200 because they couldn't fill the
Mhm.
stadium because the cost to get all the fans from Alabama and Florida and just that region. I'm pretty sure there's Florida and Auburn fans all over the country,
Right,
but
right,
just to
right.
get people from that region all the way out to Pasadena and
Yeah, because
then
you
get
gotta
them to
take care
fill
of the
the stadium.
hotels and all that.
You
Yeah.
got it, the hotel, so I got to get you got to make sure that it's enough money that's going to flow around, and then you got to get them in the stadium. If I'm already paying $300, $400, $500 for a hotel for one night. I don't want to spend $600, $650 for 2 tickets for me and my lady to go to this game. I'll spend $250. And so he flew from Salt Lake to California, $200 tickets for him and his wife. I think he bought his wife. They all their tickets were less than $200 because like they had to fill the stadium.
Well,
And that's a part of the decision making.
Well, since you brought up Iowa, shout out to Iowa for winning a game with no completed passes to wide receivers this weekend.
Sounds like, I mean, if you look around the NFL, if you
It's
want
like
tight
reverse
end, give one for more Iowa.
Yeah, reverse Tebow. Shout out to the Utah State Aggies. You know what I'm saying? Down 17-0 to the world infamous Colorado State Rams, and then proceeded to outscore them 44-7 the rest of the game for a 44-24 win. Hey, I told you to watch out, Fresno State. I told you to watch out. They went up to Laramie and they got. And guess who Wyoming got on this weekend? Off we go into the wild blue yonder.
Air Force, baby. We can win that.
Air Force.
We winning
undefeated.
that.
Undefeated.
We winning that.
All right, so here you go.
You know what I mean?
So here you go. Here's
fly, fight, win, aim high, all of that.
Here's your G5 for the week. Right. Fresno went down to Wyoming. Marshall went down to NC State. Right now, I haven't looked at the score lately, but Liberty is playing. Right now, I'm gonna look at the score real quick because Liberty is undefeated. So here we go. Let's see what Liberty is doing. So Liberty at this moment, I think the game should be over by now. Liberty, they won. Okay, so 31-13. So Liberty's 6-0 now. So they have a shot at the New Year's 6. Liberty, I said, Virginia, but other teams that are involved in this conversation, Air Force, like I said, they're undefeated. They get Wyoming at home this weekend. So, we'll see how that goes. In the Mountain West, or sorry, in the MAC, you got Miami, Ohio University, and Toledo, all 5-1. So they're still alive, but they're in the MAC. So they're going to have some chaos probably for them to get in. Tulane is still a one-loss team. They go to Memphis on Thursday night. Keep your eye out for that. Tulane's only a 3-point favorite in that game. Then you got James Madison, who I'm about to piss off Mr. Logical because James Madison is still undefeated. It can't even go to a bowl game still because of the transition rules. So this is the second straight year in a row that they're probably going to end up with the best record in the Sun Belt. It can't even go to a game.
That rule makes no sense. The expectation, like the rule, would make sense if you're. It doesn't make any sense because you're essentially pulling the team up from what would be like a relegation for your league. So you're pulling up a team from a lower level into your level. The expectation that they would just be so much better than the teams that are already in your level that they would be taking away a postseason spot is unlikely because you're pulling up a team that isn't on your skill level because they're already at a different level. So it's a weird thing. I'm pretty sure
they got the same thing in college basketball.
We talked about that. Yeah.
I'm
pretty sure it's an anomaly, but in the same sense, it's like, why is that rule even in place? It's like if you're a boxer at 135 and you want to move it to 140, I'm not going to tell you, oh, you got to wait 2 years before you get a chance. It's like, dog, you were boxing at 135. Like, I don't expect you to come up here and beat me at 140. Yeah, come on up. Welcome to the party. Like, it's just, like, I don't know why you would have a rule like that.
Roy Jones ain't supposed to win the heavyweight title.
Yeah, am I supposed to move up, like, just eating peanut butter sandwiches at 2 a.m.? I'm all of a sudden I'm going to beat the heavyweight champion of the world. Like, that doesn't make sense. Even as the skill you are. So,
yeah, so Air Force.
I get it. I mean, I'm pretty sure it has some rules.
So Air Force and Fresno State, both in, obviously in the Mountain West. Wyoming's there. So Fresno gets Boise at home. Air Force goes to Boise. If Boise gets their stuff together, that could be the difference. But Wyoming could mess it all up if they beat Air Force this week. So how awesome would it be to see a service academy in the New Year's 6?
I mean, it would be dope.
Air
and they
Force
say they
against
love the
Alabama.
military, and they sell all the hoodies and the gloves and the towels. This
Give
is
me
one of
Air
the
Force
sports
against Alabama. I need it.
they don't love the Cinderella because the Cinderella doesn't keep people watching the game. The Nielsen ratings don't work because I need you to watch the game for 60
Well,
minutes.
I think it works if it's Army or Navy. I just don't think Air
Oh,
Force
people love
brings
the
that
Army
same bell.
Navy
Yeah, yeah.
game,
I
but
don't
the
think.
Army Navy National Championship game, I don't know if people are
Oh
lined
no,
up for
they ain't
that.
gonna ride for that. They're not gonna
Yeah,
ride for that.
they'll fill up half of the link for the Army Navy game, but they're
All
not
right.
gonna fill up Jerry World for it.
So before we move on, I said we'd talk about it. So, if I'm Jimbo Fisher, I'm going for two. So 2:14 left in the fourth quarter. A&M down to one timeout, down 26-17 to Alabama at the 2-yard line. Jimbo Fisher kicks the field goal to make it a one possession game, as he should have logically, 26-20.
Okay,
And
yeah,
then
that was my whole point. I only had to say
well,
that
no, we still gonna get into it,
logically.
but
Yeah,
Alabama,
logically.
but I feel that each game has its own identity. Each opponent has their own strengths and weaknesses. Now, A&M was struggling moving the ball up and down the field against Alabama. They turned it over a couple of times. So I feel you're at the 2-yard line, fourth and goal, you just get the touchdown. You tell your team, get us to remember Dion against Colorado State. What was it? I need 4 good plays or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I need y'all to go get 2 yards because I can't trust you. Obviously, you can't say this to your team. I can't trust you to get the ball at the 30 and drive 70 yards against Alabama with about 40 seconds left or so to get a touchdown.
Yeah,
But
but that
I can get a
argument
field goal.
is mathematically you're down 2 possessions if you don't get it. You have to divorce yourself from this concept that who you're playing, the stakes on the line. You literally have to, as a coach, because I think that's where a lot of guys get themselves into trouble. A lot of coaches make decisions based off feelings and the time where feelings should have been left at the door. Is one of my favorite lines from Ocean's 11. Uh, Brad Pitt's character, Rusty, is teaching Topher Grace and a bunch of like early 2000s like pop stars, like popular culture stars, how to play poker. And George Clooney comes in and he makes a big bet, and then Brad Pitt's character goes, "What's the first rule of poker?" And then they said some asinine stuff. He's like, "Leave your emotions at the door." I think at a certain point in the game, you could be emotional. You could be Jimbo Fisher. I want to beat the guy who taught me how to be a head coach. I want to beat Nick Saban. I want to beat God at his business, and all these things can encapsulate your brain. But when it boils down to it, you got to look at it like, okay, what do I need to do here for my team? My team's down 9. And we're 2:14 left in the game. I got it. We collectively have to get this game to one possession, no matter how we do it. You can say go for the touchdown or go for the field goal, but I wouldn't kick the field goal on like first down and whatever case. But at fourth down, I've heard that narrative before where it's like you get the ball to like the 30, 34-yard line. You just go ahead, kick the field goal,
Save the time.
save the time, and then try to kick the onside kick and get it, and then maybe get a couple of keys. I don't really subscribe to that narrative because I haven't seen that work. But what I have seen work is the team kick it, get in one possession, and then get the ball back, and they have that hair on fire. We got to get in the end zone, i.e., what Oklahoma did. Granted, Oklahoma had more time and more talent, and they were more evenly matched with their opponent. But Texas A&M they have top recruits. They have
Yeah,
top
they had the
recruiting
number
class
one
last
recruiting class 2 years ago.
like
Yeah.
2 years ago, and I think probably like 2 of the last 3 years they were in the top 3 to 4 recruiting classes. So it's not like they're devoid of talent. It's just you are completely out of opportunity if you don't get the game into one possession at that point.
So I think
And the argument, like I said, the USC argument with Arizona, like you said, when the 28, I wouldn't have gone because there's still time left. But if this is a walk-off shot, i.e., what Philly and Washington did, we talked about, and we'll talk about the Josh McDaniels piece too. But like with Philly and Washington, it's like I'd rather go out here like Leonidas and die on my shield at that point because there's no time left. No one else has to make an impact play. But I don't want to put my defense in a position of where they're literally going out there for nothing. If you're down 9 points with 2:14 left and only one timeout, you're sending your defense on the field for nothing. It doesn't happen in the fourth quarter. Yes, we have the Cristobal random play call fumble, but that's not a commonality. What you do have is being down 6, getting the stop, getting the ball punted to you. At that point, if I had to do the math, you run one play for, you get the kickoff that goes at the back of the end zone. So you're down 6, kickoff goes at the back of the end zone, 2:14 left. Alabama runs a play, takes 4 seconds, they call a timeout. You're down at 2:10. They run another one. They call their third down play with 1:30 left. They don't get it. And it runs down to about 50 seconds. Alabama calls a timeout, punch you the ball. That takes about 7 to 8 seconds. So you're at 40 to 42 seconds, but you're only down one possession. If you don't get the field goal then, they can do that same thing and you'll get the ball back at 40 seconds and you're still down 2 possessions. You're not going to make up those points.
Well, I like what you said about leave the emotions at the door, but I feel like football teams are full of emotion. And I feel like
they don't take knees when they should take them. This is why they don't take timeouts when they should take them. This is why they don't take the starter out.
You have to know your team. I think you have to know your team in some ways.
I know the situation more than your team.
Well, no, I'm saying like in some ways, like if your team is like, say, teetering, like your season is on the line, which A&M's was basically the SEC West, the jump in the front seat was right there for them. So you got to know your team of, even if we go for it and I don't get this,
we're done. That's what.
Hold up.
Mathematically, you are done.
Right. For the purposes of that game, yes. But do I build something with my team?
No.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
You made a bad decision because
you only made a bad decision because it didn't work.
No.
Like, if it works, you're a hero with coconuts.
No, because you can't, because there's nothing you could do down 9 points in one play.
Either way it goes, you needed to score twice. I'm choosing a different way to score twice.
Yeah, you're choosing the way that,
because even if you kick the field goal, which they did,
you're down. They didn't 6, get the ball back. Of course. So
right, that's what I'm saying.
Being down 2 when not having the ball back. If you're down 2 and you don't get the ball back, it's fine. But if you're down 9, there's literally, you don't even have to send the defense on the field. Alabama has to do nothing. They have to do
y'all
nothing.
Talented motherfuckers. It's
not about trust. It's not about trust. That's the thing.
You can't get 2 yards. We don't deserve to win anyway.
The trust is irrelevant. The trust is irrelevant.
Hold on. So what you're telling me is, instead of going for 2 yards, go for 70.
Correct.
No,
because
if I'm right there, it's not guaranteed that I'm gonna get back down there.
But that's the thing. If you don't get the 2 yards, even if you get an opportunity to go for 70, is futile. That's what I'm saying. But if you don't get the 2 yards,
look at that math.
But the clear math is like you're down 9 points.
No, the clear math
down
is
2 possessions.
The clear math.
No, the math is 2 possessions. That's where you start. That's where you start. You start with the 2 possessions
left.
No, you start with 2 possessions. No, you start with 2 possessions. That's where you start the math from. The math is simply this: I am down 2 possessions. That's the first thing you have to understand in that situation. When you're at 4th and goal, you make that decision. I'm down 2 possessions. If I don't get this touchdown, I am down 2 possessions. And then you go, I got 1 timeout. It's only 2 minutes left in the game. I cannot get the ball twice in that 2 minutes. There's nothing you can do realistically, other than some miracle at the Meadowlands, and yes, we did see it happen with the Miami
So hold on.
Georgia Tech
What's
game,
more
which is a
likely? So
total
what's more likely?
anomaly.
A 2-point
It's not
conversion
about what's
or
more
an extra?
likely.
No, no.
But
I'm
that's the
asking a
thing.
question. This is a separate question. What's more likely? An extra point or a 2-point conversion?
An extra point.
Which one is more successful?
Extra points
So why are
mathematically
we
more
telling these
successful.
teams to go for 2 then?
The reason I tell you to go for 2 is a separate situation because being down 2 possessions, I can try to keep my finger in the frame, is that you got it. If you want to win that game and there's time left on the clock, you got to get it to 1 possession game. You have to. You can't risk being down in a 2 possession game. Arizona USC overtime, USC gets the first touchdown. Now Arizona gets a touchdown. The difference between going for 2 there is like it's the finality. The game is going to be won or lost on this play. We can win the game off of this gamble.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, I bring up gambling a lot. If I'm at a casino and I've made all these bets, like I think the last time I went to Vegas and like really gambled, I was probably up like 2 G's 2 different days. Like, granted, we ended up spending it, but I was up a lot. So I can take $300 and spread it around the table because I'm up damn near 2 G's on my gambling budget that I came there with. I can make that, and whatever happens on this next roll, if I lose, I can walk away because I'm still up. When you are down with 2 possessions, you can't gamble because it's not like a do or die situation. If I'm the underdog team and we got opportunity to win the game, a la Boise State versus Oklahoma, why am I going to keep going back and forth with the Heisman quarterback and the Heisman running back when I can just run this one play? And if we lose, the narrative is Oklahoma barely beat this team or whatever the case may be. But if we win, it's glorious. Jimbo Fisher didn't have that luxury because he needed the ball again for that moment.
Now, so like I understand what
Like
you're
for
saying,
instance, like
and
if
I'm
he
not
was
even.
down 10, right, in that situation, I would say kick the field goal. If they would have got the ball back and they would have scored a touchdown, I would have said go for 2, simply because either it's momentum or it's the
Mhm.
one expects you to. People aren't. It's not a lot of people are picking Texas A&M this year, last year, or next year to be one of the kings of the SEC. So in that situation, you're down 10, you get the field goal, you get the touchdown, go for 2 for the win. But going for the touchdown not getting
In,
the touchdown in that situation doesn't improve your situation.
in that situation, I'm going for it. Like I can understand if I was at the
You're
8.
going for it strictly off of emotion, though.
I'm
Mathematically,
not going
nothing
for it
about
off
this
of
says
emotion. I'm going for it because I think that the more likely scenario is no, not emotion. The more likely scenario is that I'm at the 2-yard line right now and I can get a touchdown versus having to go 70, 75 yards with 40 seconds or less, versus being able to get in field goal range in that 40 seconds or
But
whatever
in that same sense,
and
what's
go
more
30
likely to
yards to get in
happen?
field goal range. I don't know what's more likely to
Mathematically,
happen. And that's why you got to be
just
honest with yourself. We're not moving the ball against Alabama, so we're going to get these
true
points
indeed.
while it's right
But
here.
mathematically, what has happened more often? A team not scoring a touchdown from the 2-yard line or a kicker missing a field goal from the 2-yard line. What's happened more often, realistically?
Probably
Just
missing
no
the 2.
caveat.
Probably
Not
missing the
getting the
2.
touchdown.
I mean,
Not
not
getting the
getting, oh, yeah,
touchdown.
yeah, yeah, not getting the touchdown, not getting the 2 yards, yeah.
So if
And I
the
also
most
saw
likely
USC miss a
scenario,
25-yard field goal.
and it
You know what I'm
happens, I'm
saying?
not saying
Like,
it doesn't
that's what I'm
happen.
saying. Like,
But I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
so what if the
But
kicker
I'm
misses the
saying
field goal then?
then you're in the same position that you're in if you'd have
Exactly. So
missed a
why not just
touchdown.
go for it
Because what's more
instead of
likely to
relying on a
happen?
kicker?
What's the math? I'm not a big analytical guy, but I'm a big common sense guy. I am 98% sure I'll make this field goal from 2. it's probably 67% from the 2-yard line on 4th and 2 or 4th and goal situations. It's probably a lower number. Like I said,
And
I
you
don't
only
have that
got
number,
one
the analytical
timeout
doubt.
too. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like you had
So
3.
that once again, you have the only recourse you have is to get the 3 points, be down 1 possession, and just hope, because you keep hope alive by getting the 3 points.
It
You
can
completely
happen.
you completely devoid your team of any kind of hope if you're down 9. There's nothing you can do if you're down 9 where you can make an impact on the game
I think in that moment, I'm going.
down
You
6.
know, I'm not saying that that's my decision every time. I'm not saying that every game that's my decision. In that particular
I don't see
game,
the
that's my
winning.
decision.
I get what you mean as far as like mathematically trying to get 70 yards versus getting the 2.
Especially when it's been a struggle for me to move the ball anyway.
But with that being said, if it's been a struggle,
Like if I had
if you're
USC's
if you're
offense
a goal
score.
if you're a goal miner, if you're a goal miner and you're out there in 1849 San Francisco, and it's like, man, I haven't been getting big goal chunks. Then take the little ones. You take the little ones, you let them pile up, and then you come back and maybe you get the big one. You don't let the little ones go. So in
Right.
that situation, you gotta get to where Alabama has zero pressure on them if you're down 9. They don't have to worry about, because check it out. If they're down, if you're down 6, like we talked about this in our pre-meeting, you're down 6. The first handoff, the first play is going to be a run. The second play is going to be a run, probably from shotgun. Maybe you have an issue with the exchange, a la what happened with Missouri and LSU and Jane Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
They did like a little RPO, and the guy got through and punched out Jane Daniels' hands. Granted, that's not common, but Missouri being down 3 at that point, they had like that was their move. Like, oh, I need that kind of play to happen. We didn't know that Miami was going to give us this miracle bonehead decision later that day. But in that situation, when the Missouri defender punched it out of his hand, Alabama doesn't even have to do that against Texas A&M if they're down 9. They can literally just go under center, easy, boom, take a knee.
I'm fine
Texas
with that.
A&M call their times out,
I'm fine with
and
that.
then. But that's the thing.
You asked me the question in the press conference. So Jimbo, so you remember we talked about, I brought up how they had a 4th and 1 at like Bama's 45 in the first half and he punted it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know what this fool said? They asked him if he thought about going for it in that particular moment. And he goes, I would have probably went for it if it was 4th and inches. Like, man, if you don't get your ass out of here, like
36 inches. 36 inches.
If you don't get your ass out of here, but like I don't know, like I can only.
I understand what you're saying as far as like I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I think your decision to go for it based on the fact that it's like I don't know if I'm going to get this close again makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like how you feel about the performance of your team. My situation is that I don't want to put my team in a position where I'm sending my defense back on the field for nothing.
With no chance to win, yeah.
With no chance.
I honestly,
I'm sending these dudes
100%.
back on the field, and it's like I'm literally sending them out there. Indianapolis, week 1, Indianapolis versus Jacksonville. Instead of kicking a field goal, he kept running his quarterback, who ended up getting hit and going out of the game when they could have just kicked the field goal, been down 1 possession, and then gone back. Granted, the injury is not the part that I'm concerned with.
Right.
The part that I'm concerned with is like the fact that you walked away from that situation without points. You put yourself in a position where you could have been down 1 possession, and maybe someone makes a mistake on the hands team. Maybe they only send 10 guys out because a guy's not expected to be on hands because another guy's hamstrings getting worked in the 10. He doesn't get the message, and it's 11 on 10, and you get the ball back. Anything can happen, but you don't give yourself a chance.
I feel like
being down 2 possessions.
I just feel like in life,
You got to take a chance.
There's decisions to be made, and there's consequences, and there's rewards, or whatever the case may be. And then we go for it. We don't get it. I step up to the mic, and they say, "Why did you go for it?" I say, "Because I figured we could get 2 yards."
All right.
And that's the end of the conversation.
I live in Jersey.
That's the conversation.
I'm going to Vegas. I'm flying to Vegas. My flight leaves at 8 o'clock Saturday morning. I know I'm a party all weekend long in Vegas. Does it make sense for me to go party in New York City and drink all night and then hope that I can get to the airport in time to catch my flight to Vegas? Or do I sleep, get up on time, and go to Vegas? I'm guaranteed to have a
You
party in
have a
Vegas.
few drinks and you sleep
Every
because you're a grown ass man that should be able to control yourself.
Yeah, but
That's what.
everybody knows I'm gonna have a ball in Vegas. Soon as you get before you check in, they give you champagne or
Well,
you're getting an old
well,
fashioned, keeping
first
it
of all,
fancy
like
with the
I don't
waffle
drink that. I
reserve.
don't drink that often. But if I were a drinker and I needed a drink, I would have 1 or 2 drinks, and then I would go to sleep, and then I
Or I'd
would
be just
wake
like,
up
you know what?
to get
I'm gonna
on the
lay
plane.
it down because I'm going to the party city of America
You know what I'm
in
saying?
the morning. Why do I
But
need to be drinking at 11 o'clock at night in New York when I'm about to be drinking at
that's
11
what I'm
o'clock in the
saying.
morning in
Like, but
Vegas?
if I chose to have a drink, Imma have 1 or 2.
So
Yeah,
if I miss
I
my
decided to.
flight,
You ain't gonna miss your flight because you had 1 drink
listen, I'm not gonna
unless
have just
somebody laced
one.
it.
They got it's like Lay's potato chips, baby.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
can't
But
expect
no, but
you
like,
how
no, I
quickly
think
drink go down.
no, you're right as far as like
Like I
the
said, I feel
percentages
you on
and
your
the
piece. I'm not
you
gonna be
know
like I'm right and you're
you
wrong.
you
I
know
feel what you're saying, but I
no,
just think mathematically
I totally believe that you're
I
right.
think
I
sending
just
the
think that
defense back out in the field, that's how you get stuff like you get a guy, you get an ending like Tennessee versus Florida, where a guy overdoes it trying to create a fumble when the game is out of hand.
well, you
And
know
now
what?
you got a
Maybe
scuffle. You got you I think it's just so many nuances to that decision that as a coach, you gotta lock out. You gotta lock out who you playing against. You gotta block all that out like this. You gotta block it all out, make a decision, and then go forward.
you know what? So maybe all this time, maybe me and Brandon Staley got more in common than I thought.
Man,
But
that
speaking of
knucklehead.
that, so I know we like to talk about how Kellen Moore, isn't this great offensive coordinator that everybody thinks he is, but maybe he wasn't the problem in Dallas.
I
They just got pushed around.
I don't even think they got pushed. I didn't realize San Francisco was that good until you watch it. And Chris Collinsworth was loving. He was loving what Fred Warner was doing and what Greenlaw was doing and what Brock Purdy was doing. So you're getting a lot of replays, a lot of breakdowns from a former NFL All Pro. Uh, it was like the Fred Warner interception when I think Dak was throwing a slant to like Michael Gallup. Somebody got their arm in. Fred Warner was going to his left, realized there was no one coming in his zone, and turned around. And then the ball just basically ended in his hands. It's like that kind of instinctive play is just a little different. When he punched the ball out on the sideline, granted, it didn't touch the 4 dudes that were going out of bounds. If it would
Right.
have touched any one of them, it would have been a dead ball, Dallas ball. They could have kept it moving.
Right.
It's just that they just capitalize on every play. I think Brock Purdy has the confidence within himself. I think Kyle Shanahan is finally like, yo, I got my guy. There's no one looking over his shoulder. Jimmy G's in Las Vegas. Trey Lance on the other sideline. Apparently, Greg Kittle was like hard to cover. I guess Dallas didn't get the 85 is really good. He blocks well and he also catches touchdown passes. So maybe we shouldn't bracket Debo the whole time and let him just run across the back of the end zone the whole time. I think he had like 3 catches for 67 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think it's one of those games where one team's at home, they were on, and they had success early. and Dallas is nothing Dallas could do about it. I was never a big fan of. I'm never a big fan of the head coach calling plays anyway,
Mhm.
because I think it kind of like narrows his focus. Even if he tries to focus on the defense, even if he tries to focus on schematics, I just think he's so concerned with what plays didn't work. Because if you're a head coach and the defense is out there getting their asses kicked, the whole time you're thinking these are plays I got to call to make up for the defense giving up these yards or giving up these points. And then if you go out there and you go 3 and out, or maybe you get a 5 play drive, whatever the case may be, you're gonna be thinking about, oh, the that last drive I just called, what can I call differently while the defense is on the field?
Mhm.
That's why I'm not sure how often it really works. I know Sean McVay did it does it. I think Matt LaFleur does it. Arthur Smith does it. Mike McCarthy. I think Doug Peterson calls the plays. Sean McDermott doesn't. I'm trying to think. Tomlin doesn't call the plays. McConnell in Minnesota, he calls the plays. Campbell doesn't call the plays. Andy Reid, I think Matt Nagy's calling them now, and Bieniemy was calling them
Mhm.
for the last few years. Eberflus doesn't call the plays in Chicago. So I mean, it's probably a gift and a curse, but Mike McCarthy has such a problem with like clock management, time management, expectation management, that calling the plays just might be just too much for him. And Dak, let's keep it a bean. I like Dak. People like to say he sucks, he sucks, he sucks. Listen, it's 1 out of 32 jobs that he has on earth. I think he does it well. I think the problem is he isn't dynamic. He's not going to give you the touch throws like Joe Burrow. He's not going to give you
The Lamar
the
Jackson.
the Lamar Jackson athleticism. He's not going to give you the combination of what Josh Allen does with his legs and his arm. I don't think he doesn't give you the same confident swagger as Trevor Lawrence. He doesn't give you the
Yeah, he's
accuracy
just
of
a
Brock
solid
Purdy.
hard worker.
He's just a solid hard worker.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, Desmond Ritter, Matt Ryan. Give me a couple of guys. Just those guys are just like lunch pail guys. They just come in, they do their job. The attitude's always right. They don't blow up on the sidelines. And I think the fact that they paid him nearly $40 million a year, I don't know how the contract spread up, but I think it's somewhere near 40. And the potential that because they don't have another guy, that his next contract could be near 55. I
Mhm.
think that's the part that's kind of like giving people like pause for concern. But realistically, he's your top 12, top 14 quarterback in the league. He just
Mhm.
happens to be playing for America's team. And he's playing for Mike McCarthy and Jerry. It just the whole thing doesn't seem to fit. I don't know if they have the depth at running back. I'm not sure. Like I just don't like the way I don't like the way they operate their
I'm
offense.
still not if I'm Dallas, I still don't hang my head though. Like we got our asses kicked, whatever the case may be. If I'm in the locker room, we got our asses kicked. We got it handed to us by a better team. But as like the reason that I picked Dallas, because I picked Dallas to go to the NFC championship game. The reason that I did that is because when I look at the rest of the NFC, outside of San Francisco and Philly, I don't feel like anybody else is really better than me. And I haven't played Philly yet. So there's no reason to hang your head. But I think Dak, these last couple of seasons, whenever they play good teams, he has these type of performances.
But he
So,
had that before they paid him too.
well, that
He
too.
was
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
very he
Yeah.
was very close to it was something like I remember someone was pointing out, but it was somewhere along the lines of like a 65% win ratio when he's playing teams that didn't make the playoffs or like sub
Yeah.
800 or sub 500 year before. And it was close to 500 when he was playing against teams that made it. Granted, it was like, you got the division games and stuff like that. I think it's just a matter of like he might be what we think he is, which is a tweener
Yeah.
starter,
Hmm.
really good backup
Mm-hmm.
who flashes. Because
Yeah.
if you think about it, like I can't recall a game, like we all can recall games of guys like Tom Brady throwing 45, 50 passes, or 40 passes winning the game. We can recall Mahomes throwing a lot of passes winning the game. Peyton Manning being down 20, 17, 20, 21 points in the game in the fourth quarter and just going out there and slicing and dicing it and
Mm-hmm.
getting wins. I don't have that Dak moment in my head. We have it with Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford.
No, like we lost it because like we had that moment. We talked about it before. Like, he may have outplayed Aaron Rodgers in that playoff game until Aaron Rodgers made that pass to Jared Cook.
But that's a back and forth thing.
But I'm
I
just
think
saying he has
they
the
were
ability.
down. I think they were down like 21-8 or 21.
Well, I
There
think
was some.
Dallas jumped out early and Green Bay came back.
I thought Green Bay jumped out early and Dallas came back in
I thought it was
that
the other way
game.
around because Aaron Rodgers made that pass to Jared Cook, and that's the one
That was
Skip Bayless always says Mason crossbar. Because he hit all
yeah,
the long field goals. But either way it goes, the point being is that he's shown that he can go
but that was
toe to
7 years
toe
ago
in
too.
moments. No, it was. It definitely was.
But that's his
But
only moment if you really think about it.
I mean, you might be on
Yeah,
to
so
something.
that was 7 years ago. So I think what it is a matter of I'm not sure if the Dallas game plan when he that year, that 23 touchdowns, that's why I should remember 23 touchdowns, 4 picks, 4 rushing touchdowns. I'm not even a Cowboys fan. I just remember like that's the perfect way to operate your team when you have a young quarterback. Get him, run the ball, 2, 3 running backs, couple of tight ends, because he was throwing the ball to Witten. Like just don't let his ego, don't let his check and his ego match.
Is Dak better than Romo?
No.
I agree. But yeah, but I guess San Francisco is the real deal. If there was any questions, you know what I mean?
We talked about in our sports group, and I sent you the Nick Wright first things first clip,
Yeah.
and he referenced the 5-0 Brock Purdy led Kyle Shanahan San Francisco 49ers led team, and he said he offered a hypothetical situation, which it made sense to me what he meant, but it's like unnecessary because I know like the domino he's trying to set up. He was like, I think that San Francisco looks like they're the likely team to represent the NFC in a Super Bowl. But if it doesn't happen,
It'll be because of
then
Brock
it'd
Purdy.
be because of Brock Purdy. But there's no evidence to support. And Kevin Wilds, another guy on the show, was like, "Yeah, if you offer some evidence to support your argument, we'll believe you." Because really, there isn't. It's just a matter of saying it to make you think,
Well, I think a
"Oh,
lot of people are. I think a lot of people are caught up in the fact that he was Mr. Irrelevant, 7th round draft pick. I think
which
some
is
people,
literally the most irrelevant
right, and
statement."
and I'm sure some people are still holding the 28-3 against him. They're against Shanahan. They're holding the Super Bowl against Kansas City against Shanahan, the 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. So, like, I think people come in with a predisposed. I don't care how good San Francisco is, they're gonna blow it. I think that's how people view them in some like they're
People, it's
detractors.
like
They're detractors.
people like we keep using this phrase. People just recognize success. Just recognize that a
Yeah,
team
however it's
is,
done, you
however
play to
it's
win the
done.
game.
It's because if you think about, let's think about
I wish Ron
how
Rivera had some of that.
let's think about how the we'll go back to 2008 Super Bowl Giants Patriots. The Patriots were 18-0. They had just beaten the Giants a couple weeks before, or a few weeks before in the last regular season game. Because like I said, I was on my way to Iraq. We stopped in Bangor, Maine. We were watching the game and we had to leave at
Hey,
halftime. But to leave at halftime, we took off, and the pilot said, "Like, listen, I'll keep the satellite link on so I can call back and get updates on the game." And everyone cheered, like people booed, and some people cheered when they said that the Patriots won the game. That made them 16-0. So Asante Samuel and then late in the fourth quarter, missed an interception that Eli threw right to him.
Yep.
The helmet catch play, 3 guys had their hands on Eli, and the offensive lineman just happened to just keep. They didn't even give like maximum effort on the block. A couple of them just kind of looked like, oh, this is over, and they just kind of pushed, and Eli just was like, no, I'm getting out of here, and he throws it up, and Rodney Harrison, Hall of Fame safety, couldn't rip this dude's arm away from his helmet while like that's chaos. Like that shouldn't happen. But because of that, the Patriots lost the game. So if you have a team that's 5-0, you have a quarterback that hasn't lost a game other than the game where he got hit to the elbow by a helmet of one of the best defensive linemen in the league last year. I mean, they finished the game. But all the other evidence you have is that he did not throw the pick in the game. Peyton Manning threw a pick 6 to end the Super Bowl, essentially, the New Orleans one. He's a Hall of Famer. So everyone has the bad throw. Tom Brady threw the pick in the Falcons one that put the Falcons up 21-3. If they operate differently, Tom Brady's still a Super Bowl champion, still a Hall of Famer. But in a couple of playoff games, he threw a bad pick. Brock
Right.
Purdy hasn't had that moment. And I get that it's going to come, but predicting that moment as a demise of the team that's still 5-0, it seems less like an analytic approach, more of a I just don't want to agree or believe that this guy is the guy because his numbers are on par with your top flight elite quarterbacks. And I think the narrative is there's less of them than people want to believe.
Mm-hmm.
They all aren't elite. Tua, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, all these guys they want to lump in that elite crowd. Brock Purdy's in there, and some
Herbert.
of those guys, Herbert, some of those guys that they want to throw in there aren't. And the only reason you can't put Purdy in that conversation, or you don't want to, is because you got to take Herbert out, you got to take Lamar out, got to take Russell Wilson out, got to take Jalen Hurts out, you got to take Joe Burrow out. You have to because elite can't be 7 dudes out of a 32 team, 32 positions. Elite has to be 2 or 3. So Brock Purdy's in that range. And it's like, if I put him in here, I got to take these other guys out that I want to keep thinking they're elite.
Yeah.
That's the Brock Purdy conundrum.
Yeah. And, I got a Ron Rivera conundrum. You know what I mean? Because, against Philly, he don't want to go for 2.
He just coaches because he loves football, man.
They play Chicago, and I see a guy go 8 catches for 230 yards, and it's just like, so coming into the season, I had this argument with all my Commander fan club. I let them know how terrible the secondary was and how terrible the secondary was going to be. And I said it here on this show a few times, and they kept saying, no, like, they got talent. They're young. And no, they don't got talent. They don't. Like I said something in the group today, literally, where I was just like, yo, can we just sign Mecole Hardman and swap him over to DB? Like the last time we had a good corner was Quentin Dunbar, who was a former wide receiver. But but like, when I look back at this, Justin Fields is now that new conversation of he's arrived and he's here. And I'm just like, look, can't take away what he's done the last 2 weeks. But he played against 2 of the worst teams in the league.
Denver and Washington.
Yep. And he's going to play against Minnesota's slow ass secondary this week. So I expect him to probably have another good game again.
What I do think about the Justin Fields part of it is like, I don't know if he's cocky or if his confidence never wavered and it just came off as cocky because he his team and a lot of his performances, because he hadn't had a 300-yard passing game until Denver.
Mm-hmm.
He hadn't looked like the talent that all of his measurables, count and match him to until the Denver game. And then he did it again against Washington. So I don't know if it's a matter of like my confidence was never shaken. And now people around me can see like, oh, he really does have it. Like I think
I
he
mean,
was
it
like,
could
it
just
might
be
have
the
been
coaches being like, "Yo, do it, just do it." Like, because
and I think he might be like, yo, maybe he's sitting in a meeting. It's not
like,
like
"Yo, let me
just
cook."
demonstrative, but just like, yo, I can do this. Because they went to DJ Moore. I think it was the first play. The first play, and like I said, I watch a lot of NFL games. I think when I watch a game and it says something like Devontae Adams has only had
He
two
had
targets
one target
in the
with
first half
no, he had one target
with
all the
two
way up
minutes left.
until
The 2
5
minutes.
minutes and 15 seconds left in the third quarter was when he got a second
How does
target.
that happen?
Yeah.
How do we not go and get and create a one-on-one matchup, or like I
Against
said,
his
like
former team at that.
just
Like I would
off the rip,
imagine that he knows Jair Alexander pretty well.
put him on Jair if they go cover 3, because once you go cover 3, basically that's man to man after you get certain depth.
Yeah.
Just put it up there. Like, my guy's better than your guy. And I think DJ Moore was like, listen, I'm better than the dudes that are trying to cover me. DJ Moore, because he recorded, I believe it was 2 years ago when he played against, it was when he was, before they could change their numbers, he was playing for Atlanta, or playing against Atlanta. And so that was my daughter telling good night. He had a 22-mile-an-hour, he caught like a drag route and turned upfield, and it was like 22 miles an hour. It was like the fastest recorded like touchdown reception that year. So like he has like the talent to make these things happen. And I think they just sat down and was like, listen, man, we got 2 games against 2 secondaries that are pretty average. Let's just go for it off the bat. First play, let's just go. Because we can run the ball all game long and see what happens. We don't have to run it on first down of our first possession to start the game off. Because we can run, if he's incomplete, we can run on 2nd and 10. Give me this shot. And they were like, oh, Washington did not read a single email on DJ Moore or text message or nothing, because he was running wide open. And Chase Claypool was probably sitting at home like, y'all couldn't do that last week
I know, as he
or
sits on
2 weeks
South Beach
or
now.
2 weeks ago.
So do they have a chance to beat Minnesota this week?
I think they do, because I saw that Jefferson's on IR for 4
Hamstring,
weeks.
yep. Mm-hmm.
So he's out 4 weeks.
Pick up KJ Osborne in your fantasy leagues.
I think I like Kirk Cousins a lot, but one thing that I did notice watching quarterback, I do like him. I think he's very personable. I love the way he interacted with his wife and her picking on his clothes. But I do sense a lack of confidence in big moments.
I
And I
think he's
think
got
that's
that.
reflected in his prime time like
Yeah,
record.
I think he's got that. Like, I've seen this before.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh, I don't want to mess this up. Like this G
right,
Willie,
right.
like the Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers was a confident guy, but in the same sense, is like you saw it in certain spots where he limited himself mainly because he couldn't move. Like he couldn't get out, he couldn't extend plays, he just was limited. Drew Brees, the same thing, just wasn't big enough to like just take a lot of hits and things like that. So I think Kirk Cousins, I think sometimes his confidence, you can tell, takes a hit.
Yeah.
And when the lights are bright, I think when he's on Monday Night Football and the game starts and they go 4 or 5 plays in the first drive, no points, turnover in the second drive, I think he sits down and processes Monday Night Football.
That is a fumbling team.
And I think it trickles down from him. Like this, conversely with 49ers, Brock Purdy came in when they were a Super Bowl caliber team last year. Most Super Bowl caliber teams, yeah, Philly went to Nick Foles, but Nick Foles was a starter at one point. One year, he had 27 touchdowns, 2 picks in the season. Big Dick Nick, all that other stuff, all that, just that bravado, and he just stepped right in as a starter, who, a backup that used to be a starter. And Philly kept rolling. And they won a Super Bowl and beat Tom Brady, and he won MVP. The 49ers were down to their third quarterback, and the first guy was a guy that people probably didn't think could play. The second guy was a guy they wanted to get rid of, and the third guy, being Brock, was Mr. Irrelevant. But his confidence resonated through the huddle, whereas I don't think Kurt has that same confidence. I think Justin Fields now has that confidence, whereas Ray runs the huddle. A guy that doesn't have it, I think, even with his wins, Garoppolo is a guy that just never really inspires confidence because he's another guy that doesn't get down 13 and Garoppolo's your quarterback and you got 8 minutes left in the fourth. I don't recall him
He makes
slicing
a
the
lot
dice and getting you 14 points and you
the
win
big thing
28 to
was
27.
well, the big thing, I always hated quarterback wins. Like it was always about his record with San Francisco when he played, and
Because
but
it was terrible without him.
no,
So
I
I
know,
give
but
him
just
that. I give him credit for
watching
that.
him, it's so hard to understand because he makes some dumb throws. Like literally, Green Bay should have probably had 6 picks last night. Like he's the only
The
dude.
picks he threw against Pittsburgh, it was like,
Jimmy Garoppolo is the only dude that I've ever seen
excuse me,
take a flea flicker and try to throw it 10 yards. Or like he's the only dude I've ever seen to catch a flea flicker and damn near throw a pick 6 off of a flea flicker. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. But when I look at the Raiders, like I'm not a Josh McDaniels guy, but I mean,
makes sense.
they do play hard. They do play hard. They don't fold. They don't get down.
How much of that is Josh McDaniels, or how much of that is John Gruden drafted some hard nosed players and they just
I don't know.
happen to be there?
I don't know. Or I mean, part of that could just be, we're Raiders. I mean, it could be culture, where the silver and black doesn't die or whatever. Like, like they've always been a team with an edge. So like maybe it's just in the culture. I don't know, but I mean, he's the coach, and if they weren't doing that, we would blame him for it. So I'm gonna give him the credit for them doing it.
I'm still gonna blame him for it because he just does so poorly. I just think he just does. Ever since he got caught cheating, I think his record is something like 8-38 or something ridiculous like that. They were 6-0 to start off, and he was cheating those old 6 games, and then he's been subpar ever since.
Something else that's crazy is you were talking about your college football picks, and I was thinking about this. Like, whenever we make the NFL picks, I say all the right shit and pick the wrong team. I said, literally
every Sunday.
Literally,
1:15, I get a text. I should have picked Houston. I know I should have stuck to my gut. I should have picked Jacksonville. I should have stuck to my gut.
Literally, the first thing I said last week when we did our preview, the first thing I said was Jacksonville has been in England this whole time. They're going to be there for 2 weeks. Buffalo didn't fly there until Friday, and they had to adjust and body clocks and all that. I said that.
That was dumb on their part. They should have flown there. They should have flown on Monday.
And they looked like it too.
They should have given the guys. They should have given the guys. They play Sunday.
Yeah.
They should have given guys Monday off, and said, "All right, report to the airport for our private jet at 11 Monday night." And they would have flown. So if they'd have left 11 at Monday night, that's 4 a.m. in London. It's a 5-hour flight. They land at 9 a.m. You get them a quick walk through Monday or Tuesday morning, and then they, just some film, getting checked into their hotel, getting some sleep, and then you start Wednesday with whatever alarm clock acclimation, training, stretching, seeing a trainer, and then you could have started your practice Thursday, Friday, and been ready to go. I don't know why you would wait till Friday.
But yeah, so Buffalo, how do you get over your woes? You host the Giants on Sunday Night Football. That's how you get over it.
So they on prime time again?
Yeah, Buffalo on Sunday night.
No, talking about the Giants. I guess won Coach of the Year, so
yeah. So but yeah, so like I think that like this week past, showed us a lot of things like the Pittsburgh Baltimore finish was something to see. Joey Porter Jr., which was the corner that I wanted, but we took Emmanuel Forbes. Made the big interception on Odell and told him to go be a family man. And I love that, by the way. And
that's talk. That's shit talking 101.
Yeah, and then Kenny Pickett, hit Pickens, 41 yards out to steal the thunder away from the Ravens. So that was a game where I picked Baltimore to win the NFC North or the AFC North. And, I thought Baltimore had a good shot to make some noise in the playoffs. But it's moments like that where it's not Lamar Jackson's fault always, because the Ravens, I think they had 7 drops or something along those lines. But it's just like, y'all just can't, whatever the reason is, I feel like Lamar Jackson doesn't make the play, if you will. And, it's funny because, I tried to send it to you last night and it wouldn't open up, but, it had RG3 cussing on Monday Night Football. Like, it sounded like R. Kelly out there.
People are like apologists for Lamar Jackson. And it's like,
people want to see him do well. Y'all did the same thing with Michael Vick.
Nah, I don't think people. Vick was exciting. Always. Vick didn't come out there and say, I want to be something else. Vick was like, I don't study film. I don't do
I know, but y'all ain't want to hold him accountable.
Go.
Y'all fans,
it wasn't about lacking of accountable. He was winning games. He
never made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons.
He broke his leg one year. He went to the NFC Championship game one year. He was MVP candidate one year. He was on the cover of Madden. He was one of the most exciting players of football. I'm not saying
still overrated. Anyway, we ain't gonna get into all that right now. Let's focus on the here and now.
Boy, we about to break up the podcast.
I told you, Allen Iverson, Michael Vick, Tupac, one and the same. I told you that. I told you that. One and the same.
Fighting words.
We love them so much. We love them so much for who they are.
That's the thing. No. That's the thing. No. That's the thing. You gotta love the guy for who. Deion didn't play for Atlanta for that long. But I love Deion. Sometimes you just gotta go with the love. You gotta go with the feeling. You gotta go with the gut. I think
the feeling, he says.
Listen, I'm not gonna argue with you that I think Vic or like, I would have taken Michael Vick over Peyton Manning if I had a chance and like that. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that. I would have taken Randall Cunningham or the Michael Vick. But what you have in players like that and players like Lamar, we used to just love players. No one cared about how many playoff wins does Barry Sanders have?
One.
Off the top of your head.
One. Yes.
How many rings did Emmitt Smith have?
3.
We don't care about that. All we care about is the play where Barry Sanders had all the Dallas Cowboys piling on top of each other when he spun them around and ran and scored a touchdown. And we care about Emmitt Smith playing out there with a separated shoulder. We cared about the players in of itself. I think people like Lamar to that old nostalgia kind of level. Mm-hmm. The problem is you try to make an argument that statistically an impact, like his impact is on par with these other elite quarterbacks, and it's not. It hasn't been. And it hasn't been his entire career.
But that's the problem, though. He won unanimous MVP, so
which is fine.
Unanimous.
He also did that when I was like 215 pounds 5 years ago. Things change. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing wrong with things changing. I think that's the problem, is that because I've heard people say that this year, since watching podcasts, is like, you mean to tell me you're taking this guy over unanimous MVP? And I'm like, yo, that MVP was a whole president ago. Like things change. It's a long time.
That's like when we talk about the NBA and they be like, yo, so-and-so had all these all-star teammates. And it was like, he never make the all-star when they were together. Like
exactly. Yeah. Dwight Howard was a top 10 center.
Defensive player of the year.
But not when he was in a bubble.
Yeah, not
or like Marc Gasol. Oh, he was a defensive. Yeah, not in Toronto. He wasn't that was in Memphis. That was Memphis Gasol.
Well, that's my beef. And that's my beef with college football, is that, like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody, this is what we do. Like, Alabama is the
I
gold
understand the
standard.
nostalgia. I
You
understand the
know,
nostalgia with college football because the teams overlap and coaches like Nick Saban does compete for national championships. He just won with Mac Jones. His team is in the college football playoffs
speaking
every
of
year,
Mac
and
Jones, stay there.
they look like they belong. And that's the thing. I think a lot of times we want the guys we like to be in the conversation.
Look,
Like I talked about Nick Wright with Trevor Lawrence. The 5 touchdowns in 5 games is like, I get it. You like him, he's gonna be next. When I saw the playoff game between Clemson and Ohio State, I remember a couple of plays inside like the 5-yard line Clemson had. It was a couple of pass plays, and Trevor Lawrence got the ball, and the way he just kind of looked, made his decision and threw the ball. I was like, that looks different than what the quarterback in Louisville was doing at that time, or the quarterback in Akron does, or the quarterback in Texas. Like it looked like he was a level above. It looked like he knew something and he played differently than these other guys. And then when Justin Fields took that big hit in the back, and then later in that game through that deep post route to Chris Olave, they both looked like, I'm doing this differently than the other 20 dudes on the field right now.
wow.
And it looks that part. And I think when guys come into the league, you have a guy like Lamar who looked like, oh, he was going to be a guy, but it's like, I think he's coming back to the mean, as you like to say. He might just be a really average athletic quarterback.
Well, whatever I think of Jimmy Garoppolo, then I guess Mac Jones is like the wish version of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Mac Jones and Sam Howell are in a pack to get their coaches fired.
Hey, you watch your mouth.
Listen,
you watch your mouth.
Sam Howell, Mac Jones, they're trying to get Belichick fired, and Sam Howell is trying to get
Howell does not
Rivera
have
fired.
an offensive line.
So the enemy, you got to make up for that. You got to get rid of the ball quicker, because he did the same thing. I watched that game. He did the same thing where he slid into the rush.
He's like 5th in pass yards right now.
And Kirk Cousins is probably 4th. And they got 4
He's
losses.
2nd, I think. I think he's 2nd or 3rd.
You know what I'm saying? So like the yards are one thing. Because like, well, okay, we'll look at the Justin Fields. He has 8 touchdowns and 1 pick in his last 2 games, like the most over that span. But like, you're definitely not going to slot him above Mahomes, even though Mahomes has been
I'm
playing
not slotting
kind of
Sam Howell above nobody. I'm just saying that like
he's playing like he's trying to get somebody
he's
fired.
Playing
somebody
like
hired.
A dude that has only played 5 games in his career. That's what he's playing like. Because you're doing the Matt Ryan thing. I tell you, you do that all the time. Like, all these quarterbacks ain't going to come in and turn into Joe Montana overnight.
Okay,
it doesn't work like that.
I give you that. Okay, I give you. I'll give you that. I'll give you that argument when it was this previous era quarterback reign, when they basically didn't get college level coaching until they got to college and they became the starter. Trevor Lawrence was an Elite 11 as 15, 16-year-old. Justin Fields, Tua, we've seen all those Trent Dilfer. These guys are getting college coaching at 16 years old, like real college.
Which is still below the NFL.
It's still below, but now let's look around the league. How many quarterbacks in year 1 and 2 look awful that are still starters year 3? Mac Jones had a Pro Bowl year his first year, and you saw some flashes, and then he got the defensive coordinator, and now they don't have the talent in New England. Like, Bill Belichick has just not put a talented offensive team around him, so he might have a shot. Zach Wilson, I think we've seen enough of him, realistically. He's had weapons.
Yeah, he could be a good backup.
We'll look at a guy like Trey Lance.
Better than Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold is another guy.
Well, Trey Lance is like, he's not. I don't want to put him in this
look good. He didn't look.
Well, no, I know, but
he didn't look like any. Like he did that throw.
He also didn't play. That's the problem with him. He didn't play.
I don't care how much you played. If you threw 50 passes and none of them looked like they were, that was your first read.
Well, no, I'm talking about in college. He didn't play. Like
that's what I'm saying. But he didn't. You could tell when he got to the league,
versus
it's
these
not going to
dudes
work out.
like these dudes that started for like 2 years. I just don't feel right
It
comparing him
just
to
is.
them.
It's not. I don't think it's a matter of like people pulling the plug too early.
No, I don't
You
think he.
have enough because if you think about this,
No, you just
how
got to
many
figure out.
how many practice videos do we see of Aaron Rodgers when he's in Green Bay throwing the ball into the trash can? How many practice videos do we see of Tyreek Hill running past guys? How many practice videos did we see
The
of
problem with
Stafford throwing no look passes? There was we didn't see any leaked Trey Lance good passes.
no the
We didn't
problem
see any Zach Wilson passes. It's because you know when a guy has it and you
I,
need it to be
I
successful.
think the problem with Trey Lance is that there's not an NFL team out there that is willing to punt 3 years. So like Arizona, let's look at Arizona for example,
But
right?
that's the thing.
Like,
No team has had to do that in the last 15 years.
but that's what I'm
Not
saying. Like,
one team.
no team's going to do that. That's my point. Like even with Arizona, like Kyler Murray's out right now, and everybody was like, "Yo, they're tanking for Caleb." Arizona should literally probably be like 3-2 right now, or something like that. Like, they should have beat Washington. They should have
But
beat the
they're
Giants.
like 2-3, right? Or
Yeah, they
they're
should.
1-4.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
one. They're 1-4. 1-4. They
All right.
beat.
Keep going. I'm
They beat
listening.
Dallas. That's it. They beat Dallas.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
they're
lost.
1-4.
Yeah, they should be 3-2 right now. They should have beat Washington. They should have beat the Giants. But like, so I can't say that they're tanking for real. We just looked at the fact that they were starting Josh Dobbs, who didn't even go through training camp with
Didn't
them.
go to training
And
camp with him. They made a trade for him like Labor Day, and he was a
yeah, and we
starter
were
the
like,
week
what the
later.
hell are
Yeah.
they doing? But Trey Lance needs a team. Like, if this was the NBA, Trey Lance needs to go to like Detroit. You know what I mean? Like somewhere that knows
But that's
that
the
they're not
thing.
right
I
there.
don't
Like,
know if
there's no
that's
team
really
out
the
there.
case. I don't think that's really the case
He
because
needs he
I
needs
use
reps.
Mark Slurf. I
He
use
needs
Mark
reps.
Slurf as my example. Like I love listening to Mark Slurf. I think he just gives like just very poignant analysis.
Yeah, my man
Stink. He talked about Colin Cowherd asked him a question. It's probably like 3 or 4 years ago. He was like, "How quickly do you know?" Because it's around the draft. He's like, "How
Right,
quickly do
right,
you
right.
know
He
if a
flew
guy
it.
can
Yep.
play or not?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Our first round quarterback versus our 7th round quarterback." He's like, "We came out to practice. Me and the O line were watching the guys throw the ball around, and we were like, who is that guy over there?" And they were like, "Oh, that's the guy we got in the first round." They're like,
Desperate.
"Who's
Or
this
yeah,
guy
he's
over
Desperate.
here?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, this guy we got in the 7th round." He was like, "That guy's better than him." He's like, "We knew it immediately at practice." You like, you. I don't know how much better you can
No, I
get when
agree
you're
with you.
already.
I'm
So I
agreeing with
think
you.
Trey Lance's. I think the
I'm
way
just
he
saying
was
that there's
throwing the
nowhere for
ball,
him to play quarterback at because he's not a quarterback, or he's not like
he's
there's
not
nowhere.
Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was another guy. Sam Darnold's now went from the Jets to the Panthers to the 49ers. You know what he's a backup. Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert's another guy. Trent Dilfer is a prime example. Trent Dilfer, I remember with his senior stats, he had like 12 touchdowns and 10 picks the year he got drafted. Like they had him up there with like the other top draft pick quarterbacks. I'm like, this dude threw 12 touchdowns. I'm like, so and then look at his career. Look how his career looked. His career looked like a guy who only threw 12 touchdowns a year who was about to get drafted. Blaine Gabbert was the same way. Blaine Gabbert was in the spread offense. I think he threw like 13 touchdowns and 6 picks. Out of the spread offense in Missouri. He just looked the part. But when you get him out there on the field, it doesn't work out. And there's nothing wrong with you saying, this guy, San Francisco, I commend them for saying, like, you know what? This didn't work. They got lucky because their defensive prowess was just, they probably put together the best defensive team without splashes. Because, like, Philly has a splash because their whole entire, like, so much of their defense is like the Georgia players. And then you have, like, Jordan, you have Jordan Davis, and you have Jalen Carter, Kobe Dean. You got all these guys, Nolan Smith. You got all these guys that are just like, they were big name guys in college. And you got them all on one team. I'm not sure. I don't know where Fred Warner went to school. I don't know where Greenlaw went to school. Bosa went to Ohio State. Eric Armstead. I'm not sure where he went to school. It just seemed like they just pieced this team together defensively. Tufunga, like they just put these guys together. D'Amico Ryan's defense now. D'Amico Ryan's down in Houston.
Hey.
So
one guess: where did Fred Warner go to college?
Utah.
He went to BYU.
Makes sense now. That's why when you started laughing, I was like, he probably is Polynesian. I know he's Polynesian. I know he has like Pacific Islander.
Right.
But
No,
think
but
about it. You didn't hear anything about him pre-draft.
no. And well, like I think that with somebody like Trey Lance, like I said, like the NBA, you can get away with this. Like, you can draft like Amen Thompson and like see some kind of potential that in 2 to 3 years, like even if it starts out bad, you're like, I see the long arms. So at the very least,
I think they get rid of him. I don't think the team you draft doesn't keep you.
Well, no, I'm just saying,
team they trade you to.
But at the very least, somebody is like, that's a long arm defender that can get into passing lanes, like XYZ, whatever. The shot might not be there, but he can pass it and set everybody else up. Whereas in football, like the NFL doesn't have time to wait for that. Like you either going to come in, take your lumps, but show me something to where like Justin Fields. Like I think the idea of Justin Fields is enough or was enough for the Bears.
I think the Bears are so bad.
He just blended in.
I just think the Bears are so bad that you don't know whose fault it is.
Right.
So they just bought him time. It just was a matter of like, because they had Khalil Mack didn't pay him, Roquan Smith didn't pay him. Like these are guys that they brought in, like didn't pay.
Right.
And they just traded them off. They jumped up to get Trubisky, which hurt them because that was a Deshaun Watson, Mahomes, and they traded up from 3 to 2, gave up assets. So I think they just made so many bad moves. They didn't make a good move. So having a quarterback that looked like he was underperforming was just par for the course for the Bears.
Right.
If you think about, like, we go back to the Matt Ryan Flacco, the 08 year. If you think about all the quarterbacks off the top of our head that been drafted and started immediately, most of them were good enough to show potential. Like I said, the Trevor Lawrence snapping the ball, knowing exactly where to go with it, very just precise throw. Like I know where this ball is going. Sam Bradford. Think about Sam Bradford when he got the snap. Do you ever see a throw with Sam Bradford made and it was like he knew exactly where that ball was supposed to go? No. But Matthew Stafford, like Matt Ryan's first touchdown was a 3-step drop, and it was like a skinny, not like a slant, but like Michael Jenkins just got inside the corner, and it was just right on the money touchdown. So his first regular season NFL game, first throw was a touchdown. That's because when he got to his drop, that was read. He made the throw. Zach Wilson, tell me a throw you've seen from him where he made that kind of throw. I got Stafford's throws. I got Jared Goff's throws. Carson Wentz was a guy that you could just tell, like a guy has or he doesn't. And I think San Francisco knew Trey Lance didn't have it. That's why they moved him. And I think it's going to be more guys like that. And it's not a knock. I think it's
hard. It's like you said earlier. Like you said earlier, there's only a few elite dudes.
It's only a few elite dudes. It's 53 spots in this roster. I can't keep you if you're not giving me elite playmaking ability.
Yeah, we have this conversation all across sports. It's the same thing I used to tell people. You got LeBron, you got KD, you got Steph, you got Giannis. You can't put DeMar DeRozan in that conversation.
I saw something in the podcast Spencer Dinwiddie said. He's like, fans that think it's 40 superstars in the NBA.
Yeah,
he was like, us guys in the league know it's like more like 5.
Yeah.
Like and then the guy asked him like, what constitutes a superstar? He was like, like a guy that could walk into a locker room and say, because I'm here, we're gonna win and we're gonna win big.
Yeah.
He's like, it's only, and they named off a few guys. They named like Embiid, Luca, LeBron, Steph, Jokic, a few guys, and like they got to like 6 or 7. But realistically,
Like you can't even do that with Kawhi to some degree.
you
You know
can't
what I
do it
mean?
with
Like,
Kawhi. You can't do it with Luca. Really, you can't really do
yeah,
it with
because you haven't
Embiid
seen it yet.
because
Yeah.
you haven't seen it.
I mean, he
Like
did
what?
get to the Western Conference Finals. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah, he did put that, but
you
I
know.
think that made because Devin Booker just was pissing him off, and he was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm about to shut him up."
But no,
But
but that's what I
realistically,
used
it's
to
like
argue.
it's not for everybody's not there. So like when
But
they talk about the running back position, it's like, oh, we can just get a guy off the street. You can't get a guy off the street that can move the way Jonathan Taylor does. You can't get another Nick Chubb off the street. Even with Kareem Hunt, Kareem Hunt was a top running back.
yeah.
Nick Chubb was better than him, and they were on the same team.
Well, that's like I used to tell people, like when we were talking about the rings last week, like everybody's like, how the newer players, obviously faster, stronger, all that stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, you could put LeBron in another era. Like, yeah, you could put KD in another. You can't necessarily just put DeMar DeRozan in another era and be like, he's gonna be the star of that era. Or like you can't put like Drew Holiday in the 80s and be like, yo, he's
Yeah.
gonna be Isaiah Thomas.
And that's what like it just and that's the thing. It's nothing wrong. I think people take it as a slight because I remember hearing some KD interviews or just kind of some rumblings. He thought he was the best player in the league during LeBron's like tail end of his prime run, like that 15, 16,
And he wasn't.
17, 18. What so when he joined the
The
Warriors, he
Warriors, yeah.
thought that run cemented him as the best player in the league.
No, it
But
didn't.
the people were looking like, yo, did you see what LeBron was doing with the guys around
The
him
team that he did, yeah.
and the team that you matched up with? Like you realistically, you can't be like, oh,
Like once Cleveland, like I don't ever consider myself to be a LeBron hater.
yeah.
I
We'll
just
get
get
back to
tired.
NFL in a second.
I
Yeah.
just get tired of hearing his name and I get tired of talking about him and shit. You know what I'm saying? But I don't necessarily hate him. But like after they traded Kyrie and he took that team to the finals and they were like trading people mid-season and there was nothing else to say. Like there's nothing else to say. Like
Yeah.
you can
No
feel how
one
you feel, but there's nothing else to say.
no one else is doing that. And that's the same thing with Mahomes last year when he took and that's why I think Mahomes and the Chiefs are I think they're experimenting mid-season, but one of these guys has to pop.
Well, the rookie's been looking good. Rasheed Rice, he's been looking good.
Yeah. But they need that deep over route threat. They need the guy that can take the top off because I
That
think
was supposed
Sky
to be
Moore's
Kadarius Toney.
I don't know if Mahomes trusts him to run those routes. I don't think they could put him at the 2 or the 1 in a lot of these formations because if the play breaks down, like Kelsey and Mahomes, granted they have like this unspoken bond where
Right.
if it's 3rd and 15 and Kelsey's running a 12-yard route, he just knows to turn over his right shoulder at the 11-yard mark and just kind of slide to the side because Patrick is rolling to the right. And he's just gonna get him the ball, turn it up, and maybe it's 4th and 1, maybe they go for it. They just have that thing. I'm not sure if Kadarius Toney has that same kind of like we talked about with Buffalo, that 13 seconds. The first pass went to Kelsey. The first one to Tyreek Hill.
Mhm.
The first one off the snap with the Tyreek Hill, he got down timeout. And then Kelsey walked over to Mahomes and said, if they do that thing again, I could be open right over here. You know what I mean? And he was like, yeah. So then they motioned Tyreek Hill over to kind of create some congestion and then just ran Kelsey up the seam. He's like, if they do that same thing again, I'm gonna be open here. And he's like, yeah, I got you. None of that made it that he didn't use any words. If they
Yeah,
do
he
that
didn't.
same thing
Yeah,
again, I'm gonna be open
he
at the
didn't call a
40.
route.
I'm
He
gonna be
didn't. Yeah,
open off the seam. If they do that same thing again, I'm gonna be open. And then they did it. I'm not sure if Sky Moore walks from the sideline over to Patrick Mahomes and say, if they do that same thing, I'm gonna be open over there. And they both know exactly what that
Right.
looks like. And I think I think why they're playing the way that they are, because you need that, but you have an elite quarterback that allows you that kind of leeway. Whereas a team like Minnesota has to make every play. I think Miami, to an extent, has to make they have to make the plays when they're available. They're a good team. I think Buffalo's another team. I think Buffalo gets a couple of turnovers, and it's like, here we go again, and it
Yeah,
snowballs.
then there's Stephon Diggs beating up a tablet. Like
Just stuff like that, getting the FedEx slip on his locker with the bill for the tablet on Monday, which
yeah.
pisses him off even more. Like I said, I'm as far as college football and the NFL, I think the thing I like the most about it, and I'm not sure if everyone's liking it, I don't see anybody that's separated themselves from the pack.
Well, I mean, in
I
the
think
NFL,
I,
I would argue that's San Francisco or Philly,
I,
but probably San
I
Francisco.
but
But Philly's played a
losing to
tougher schedule
watch.
too.
Philly's losing to watch if they go for 2 points.
No, I know, but I mean that's division stuff.
Mac
That happens.
Mac Jones little out route. If Butte gets his toe down, he has another shot. 4
But
shots from the
ain't nobody going
19-yard
17
lines.
and 0.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think Philly. I don't say they look beatable. I just don't think they
No, the
separated
first couple of
themselves from
games
the
was
pack.
rough because they're breaking in new coordinators, so you
San
expect that,
Francisco is definitely out
you
there,
know.
but are they out there because they haven't really been challenged yet? Is there anyone
That's a
really
good
that's not
question.
able to challenge them? Like, is that a real thing? Are
That's a
they
good
gonna
question.
go this year to where every single week they become 3.5 points, four and a
I'm
half points,
honestly at the
six
point
and a half
where
point favorites multiple weeks in a row? Like the NFL doesn't work that way.
I'm almost at the point where Buffalo beats themselves more than anybody else beats them.
Yeah,
Like that's where
absolutely.
I am with Buffalo. Like Buffalo should be in the Super Bowl, but they just can't get out of their own way.
Buffalo doesn't have an OG.
You know what I'm saying?
Every team,
Hey, they got
and
Von Miller.
I'm talking about, but I don't know if he's playing.
He came back.
And I don't know if he's but I'm talking about the team, like the identity, like the
Like the Ray
identity
Lewis
of the
guy.
team, the Ray Lewis guy, the Ravens had riches. They had Suggs, Goose with the personality. I mean, they
Yeah.
had Shannon Sharp early on. Then you had Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. Like, I mean, it just was like riches upon riches upon riches. I think a team like I like Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. I think he can keep the team rallied.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have Mahomes. Uh, like the Giants don't. Daniel Jones got that $40 million. I guarantee you, everybody when he plays poorly on that team thinks about the fact that Saquon was begging for money and they get his dude $40 million.
Mhm.
I don't care what people say. I don't care nobody's pockets. I'm out here busting my ass, and you out here looking like a chump,
Hey,
and you
Jonathan
getting
Taylor got
10
paid.
times. You getting 10, like imagine you get $4 million in that team and you play safety. You're a $5 million linebacker and you're out there 34 minutes a game because your offense keeps fumbling the ball away or punting the ball away.
He
And
came into last week's
this
game.
dude's on the bench is getting 10 times more money than me per year. So when we get paid on Tuesday, I'm out this bitch getting taped up, knuckles all cracked up, and we're gonna get our game check, and his check's gonna be $820,000, and mine's gonna be $82,000. And he sat down for 40 minutes, and I was out there chasing
And
Jalen Hurts
coming
and
into the
Michael.
game last week. And coming into the game last week, he had 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions on the season.
and he's walking away every week.
Hopefully he
40
plays
times
this week. I know he
17.
got his neck all jammed up and everything. So, hopefully he'll be all right to play on Sunday.
Yeah. So
Deshaun
yeah,
Watson still may not play this week. And, they need him because they got San Francisco coming in. But
$230 million.
yeah, looks like he might not play. We'll see. Like I've, heard some in between. So we'll see. But, hey, sports reports is ordered. We're here. Now we're gone. So we'll be back on Thursday with our picks. We're gonna try it again. I don't know if Mr. Logical gonna participate, but
Listen,
we go
it's chalk all the way. Home team favorites
chalk all the way. You know what
all
I'm
the
saying?
way. I'm not gonna be creative. Nothing.
I am taking Washington over Oregon. I'll let y'all know that right now.
Taking Chiefs over Broncos.
Oh
That's the
yeah,
only thing I know for sure.
Over the Broncos, yeah.
Broncos gonna end up winning 42-24 or something crazy like that.
Yeah, and I'm taking San Francisco over Cleveland just because we don't even know if Deshaun Watson gonna play.
You know I'm taking the Falcons over the Commanders, but we'll get to that.
I'm taking the Commanders. Anyway.
Make you wear a Falcons hat.
Love you, America. I'm going to bed. Peace.